Hello, TSC family, and thanks for logging on today to check out this IIB presentation titled Regulation, How to Return Home. The hot tip here today is that Come Home to the TSC, our back to school logo and theme this year, are all centered around this idea, this topic of regulation and how to return home. So let's get started. As you may or may not have seen, featured on the screen now are our 4 applied educational neuroscience pillars. This is the framework for which we do our work here in the TSC as it's connected to social and emotional learning. Today, we're going to really focus on that second pillar called regulation. All right, a focused attention practice. Since I'm not with you, I'm going to count on you to do one of these on your own. I'm going to count in my head for about 30 seconds. And during that time, I encourage you to offer yourself an opportunity to take a break. Remember, a focused attention practice is an exercise to quiet the thousands of thoughts that distract us and prepare our mind for new learning. And since we're getting ready to embark on some learning, I wanted you to have the opportunity to regulate and reset. So go ahead and breathe or express a gratitude or look out wherever you are, look around you and pay attention. Notice your surroundings. Those are some of the key elements of a focused attention practice. So when you're ready, I'll give you a second to get settled. Let's begin. Okay, that was 30 seconds. Remember that we always ask the question of ourselves or our students, what did you notice? I hope that you noticed either your surroundings or that you feel more reset and ready to learn. All right, our agenda for today is on the screen. We're going to cover what is regulation, the science of regulation, and then we're going to cover some strategies for how to achieve regulation. Regulation is the act of being able to adjust and control our emotions, actions, behavior, body language, and yes, even our mindset within our environment. So regulation is moving from when we are able to handle our emotions in our limbic system or our brainstem and handling them then within our thinking and learning brain of our prefrontal cortex. It's really synonymous a lot of times with the word mindfulness, meaning why we do it. Regulated brain states offer us the opportunity to have a response instead of a reaction. Regulation is the green on our stress response chart. So when you are in a regulated brain state, here it comes, then on the right-hand side of this green lower part of the stress response chart, those are all of the physical benefits of being in a regulated brain state. So your digestion's increased, you are able to rest and recover quickly if you do happen to get sick, your immune system is firing the way it should be. And a popular question that I get about our stress response chart featured on this slide is, can you be in multiple states at once? No, but you do fluctuate between the different brain states frequently throughout your day. So why we want to talk about regulation and coming home to the TSC is because we're talking about that navy blue line at the bottom, or maybe it's some shade of blue on your screen, where it's a squiggle line. That is the line of homeostasis and where we can return to social engagement. So like I tell the students, green is good and the goal. So when we talk about being in a regulated brain state, that's the color that we're talking about. Right. Another way to think about a regulated brain state is Dan Segal's teaching of the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain. This is just a quick image, another way to help teach we teach the 3 parts of the brain, just a crash course. Prefrontal cortex, remember that's behind your forehead. It's where you think and learn, and that's the upstairs brain. where we make good decisions, where we weigh right and wrong, we can plan ahead. And then your downstairs brain is connected to your amygdala and what we know some conscious discipline calls your primitive brain. There's a lot of different sayings for being in this downstairs brain, but this is your fight, flight, or freeze, your alarm alert. This is a quick tip for classroom teachers. If you're interested in a quick way to show your students what a regulated versus a dysregulated brain state looks like, this is Dan Segal's hand model. There are several YouTube links out there with quick short videos if you'd like to use this to teach your students what a regulated and dysregulated brain looks like. He talks about a regulated, calm, cool brain, or dysregulated where you have flipped your lid, as you can see in the pictures illustrated here. So then sometimes I get asked, well, what does regulation mean? How do you achieve it? Well, you might recall hearing me say breath, movement, and song, or rhythm. And notice we've also added then sensations. And sensations are really, you could think of them as the avenue of which to accomplish breath, rhythm, and song. So it's just another attempt at how we can move our brain states to that of a regulated brain state. So next we're going to go through these areas of rhythm, breath, movement, and sensations, just to touch on some of the strategies and tools that you could use to teach your students or even apply to yourself. So if we know the definition of regulated, then let's talk about dysregulated. It's when we can't or are unable to adjust or control those emotions. Dr. Lori Desautel, who's one of our mentors in this work, has a great quote there on the screen. One of the hallmarks of students who carry with them toxic levels of stress and trauma is that they remain in a persistent state of alarm. This is what causes these young people to be either a combination of hyper-aroused, anxious, angry, irritable, and explosive, or hypo-aroused, which is withdrawn, exhausted, and depressed. And you can find those examples also on that stress response chart if you'd like to revisit what those different states are. So when someone is dysregulated, there are oftentimes very observable behaviors connected to that. Some students may withdraw, or some students may appear aggressive. They may rip the paper, bang their heads on desks, they tap loudly, they kick, they scream. But science tells us that those are not really oppositional or disruptive or disrespectful behaviors intentionally, that oftentimes students are working to regulate themselves. So when students struggle with math or reading, we help them. But when a student struggles with behaviors, typically we've lived in the mindset that we punish them. But what we know now to be true is that these are missing skills. So when we say we have to meet students where they are in their development and in their growth, what we're talking about is understanding that when students demonstrate dysregulation, we need to look at the idea that all behavior is communication. So what is being communicated to us? So when we act as a model and help co-regulate these behaviors with our students, then we actually equip our students with the ability to eventually self-regulate. This slide is one of my favorite thoughtful steps in how to think about regulation. Karen Purvis teaches this. She says that external regulation happens first, then co-regulation, and then self. So if you would think about external regulation as a baby who is crying, that baby is going to rely on some kind of caretaker to help regulate, rock, soothe, feed the baby. That's external regulation. Co-regulation then is when we think about we require someone else to help us reach a regulated brain state. So we borrow actually someone else's prefrontal cortex and their brain state to help get us to a regulated brain state. So this isn't where we just do it to a student. This is where we sit down, we get parallel, we are present, we might breathe with students. And so we co-regulate, and this requires repeated practice so that eventually then they move to that self-regulation. Self-regulation happens when the student takes the strategies to calm on their own without help or guidance from anyone else. And it's really important to note that, especially for adults during a pandemic, we need to think about we never outgrow the need for co-regulation. Okay, so think about the last time you may have been stressed in your life, and another human, maybe another human, either sat with you or you called them and you worked through your stress or your crisis with someone else, and that helps to create that felt sense of safety. I loved this quote from the book Eyes Are Never Quiet. Dr. Lori Desautel and Michael McKnight, their book, that particular title, has a lot on regulation. If this topic has piqued your curiosity, I encourage you to pick up that title. So again, the need for co-regulation never goes away in any of our lives. And this is a really important reminder as well that this work is not just about our students, but it's about us as the adults too. That a dysregulated adult will never regulate a dysregulated child. And I love that L.R. Nost quote about when little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm and not join their chaos. So let's look at some strategies for regulation. So the language of the brain works like what you're seeing on your screen right now. The cortex works in words. So that's where we know our students are ready to communicate with us. They're very likely in their prefrontal cortex ready to discuss, problem solve, and they're thinking clearly. If someone is in their limbic system of the brain, the feelings that they are experiencing is their current language. So if a student might be angry or worried or scared or sad, this is a time where we need them to tap into those emotions and where we, as the adult, need to tune into those observable feelings and emotions that are being demonstrated by that student. So thinking about this is where writing in a journal and feeling noticed in some way through a check-in, for example, could help move the student to a more regulated brain state. And last but not least, the brainstem. The language of the brainstem is sensation. And oftentimes this is the part of the brain where a student or adult is really only able to hear and understand sensation. And so they might express feeling numb or frozen, or they look disengaged. And so we wake up or we speak to the sensation of the brainstem by having them participate in something like a focused attention practice, drumming, visiting a calming corner, or an amygdala reset station. So let's look a little bit further into breath. There are truly endless number of strategies that you can use to help students breathe. If you check our TSC SEL reentry plan, there are probably getting close to hundreds of examples of how we can ask our students participate in a breathing practice. And what we know about breath is this. The most important aspect is the exhale. If we exhale longer than we inhale, we are better able to control our breath. And scientists across disciplines all continue to support the science and agree that breath is the number one strategy we can use to regulate our brain. You can see a couple examples of breathing activities featured there on the screen, such as coloring, turning off the lights, taking deep breaths, imagining happy places or family members. Again, please reach out to our neuroscience website for a million resources. So in depth with movement, let's take a look at this particular slide. I'm sure you're hearing me now say breath, movement, and rhythm or song. Breath, movement, and rhythm or song are the ways that we speak to our brain to get it regulated. I'm not going to read this whole slide to you, but you can see that the scientific evidence is there of why our brain loves to move, but also something that kids are always fascinated when I point out, especially core exercises, because our vagal nerve connects there to all of our major organs, and it's our body's natural safety mechanisms. So you can see there are also endless ways, just like there are endless ways we can get students to breathe, there are endless ways that we can get them to move. I'll stop for a second so you can read the "Your Brain Loves the Gym" slide. Okay, rhythm. Featured here is Dr. Lori on teaching us a regulation strategy, which you can find this clip on her YouTube channel or on her Revelations in Education website. Lots of ways to connect with that particular video. But guess what? The same story is going to be true here with rhythm. There are endless strategies that can be used to help students experience rhythm. Rulers on the desk, pencils on the desk, clapping and tapping rhythms, repeating rhythms. And this is a great opportunity to have students be a rhythm leader in the classroom. That could even be a classroom job. So just know that drumming also helps us regulate our brain states. So sensations. Remember, the language of the brainstem is sensation. So a lot of times these are strategies that we can use that will speak to the brainstem and then work their way up as well to helping us achieve that prefrontal cortex brain state where we're regulated. Some ideas are featured here. Some pictures are featured here. These might be items that you would put in a classroom calming corner or potentially even an all-school amygdala reset station. We have a word wall list of sensations, remembering that suckers, Cheerios, sucking with a straw, ice pops, carrots, pretzels, any of those can also be very regulating. Hand lotion massaged on the hands, weighted blankets, drinking even lots of water, taking lots of water breaks can all be ways that we communicate to our brainstem. A super popular and very easy to incorporate way to help our students build those self-regulation skills are check-ins. And Dr. Judy Willis says that we should really be checking in with our students every 10 to 15 minutes, even our older students. So this isn't just for our youngest learners. And we're always asking them those big three questions. What do you need? How can I help? And what can we do to make this better? On the screen are featured 2 examples of some check-in charts, but there are also many, many of them featured in our SEL reentry plan as well as on our neuroscience website. We encourage you to not only check in with your students, but with your colleagues, with your staff, with your team, with your spouse, with your friends, because the science supporting check-ins is extremely valuable and everybody has this universal need of being seen. It matters. So this is a way that we can express our emotions, help us to name them and tame them. And this is such a powerful strategy. If you take one thing away, I really would like for you to try check-ins with your students. And if you need support, you know where to find me. I would love to hear from you. All right, so your prescription for how to come to homeostasis, how to come home to the TSC are featured on the screen now. Breathe, rhythm, song or movement, and sensations. So we thought we'd put a prescription up for you so you can help remember that those are the keys to helping you come home to the TSC. Here are some of the resources from our time together today, but of course there are many more. Be sure to visit our neuro website and or that reentry plan as I've mentioned. Thank you for logging on today and spending your time learning about regulation. Here is how you can find me. My email, my Facebook, and my Twitter accounts are featured on the screen currently. And I would like for you to, if you're interested in earning a few PGPs as coinciding with this particular lesson, be sure to check the comments section because I will link there a quick Google survey that you can fill out. And once you do, then you'll be eligible for some PGP points for your time today. So as always, I end every lesson with a well wish. So may you be safe, may you be healthy, and may you be happy.